With the U20 World Cup on the horizon, many are waiting in anticipation to see what crazy formations are created. Will we see Rain at the forefront like in the match against the Japan Under-20 team? Will we see something like Kaiser and Isagi's double spearheaded style from Bayern München? Or will we just see Ego throw a bunch of our best players on the front line and cram around the ball till a goal is scored? No matter the case, the question that everyone has in mind right now is who is going to be placed as the next captain of the Japan Under-20 team. And it is an important question after all. The captain has one of the most important roles on the field, delegating the team and being the backbone for morale, as well as the core decider for team organization and direction on the pitch. Whoever eventually gets selected as captain needs to have all of those qualities. And while it may be obvious to some, it's become increasingly more clear that the next Japan Under-20 captain will be none other than Yoichi Isagi. This video will simply be me going through the reasons and build up as to why Isagi will be the next Japan captain for the U20 World Cup. Like in all of my videos though, before I get into it, I want to leave a spoiler warning for the latest chapters of the Blue Lock manga, and if you are not caught up to at least chapter 304, I would suggest clicking off this video now if you wish to not be spoiled. I also have a Discord server called the New Egoist Geeks, which you should totally join. The link to that is down below. Now before I can even talk about Isagi being captain, we should start by reviewing the potential nominees aside from Isagi that I see being the most commonly suggested. So just starting from the top and the character that I originally believed was going to be the next U20 captain, we have Oliver Aiku. Now for Aiku being the next U20 captain, it seems to be the most sense to argue simply because he was the former Japan Under-20 captain. But excluding the previous experience that Aiku had being a captain from an undetermined amount of time, what makes Aiku a good candidate for next captain? I think a good point to address aside from his skills and abilities is his overall demeanor with the rest of the team. The former U20 team all counts on Aiku and has full faith in him, but he's also there to support the team if they need it. After Rin's goal in the U20 match, Aiku comes over and addresses the result with the Iron Wall Quartet, to which he blames himself for his failure to stop Rin, to which they all immediately distress on the current situation. Something happens similar even earlier in the game after Sai's goal, where you look at Sai after he criticizes the U20 team and their forwards. While Sendo gets riled up, Aiku immediately manages to come over and reconnect themselves to the game, calming them down and resetting the play. His ability to provide comfort for anyone he aligns himself with is something that is undeniable with his character. Hell, if you can make Baro of all people follow your orders, you obviously have the mentality and qualities that a captain would need. Which, if you were not aware, according to the Egoist Bible, Aiku is the only person in the U20 age bracket that Baro actually would take orders from. Now you could attest this to being mentioned in the Baro light novel that Aiku is actually one of the key figures in Baro's decision to pursue becoming the best striker in the world, but since Baro didn't seem to recognize Aiku in the Under-20 game, I'm not sure if that's the reason. Another popular pick for the next U20 captain is actually the former captain of the Blue Lock 11, that being Rin Itoshi. Now, out of every possible nomination for captain, I think that Rin is by far the worst. Not even counting Rin's character, I don't believe that any genius type of player should be the captain. Geniuses within Blue Lock will prioritize personal pleasure over team impact, and as the captain of your team, your job is to manage everyone's mental capacities and impacts during the game. And for someone like Rin, who is a genius and will only pursue personal pleasure, that's not really someone I want as the crux or anchor of my team. People do try to argue that because Blue Lock won against the former Japan Under-20 team, that Rin should be the captain since he led them to victory, which not only is that statement not even remotely true, but it also doesn't make sense. Sure, while Rin is the strongest individual talent in Blue Lock, his impacts didn't lead them to victory as the captain. He essentially just brute forced his way through the process, leading to him being a core factor of Blue Lock winning. But that wasn't him acting as a captain, that was him acting as the strongest player on the team. The captain doesn't necessarily have to be the strongest player on the team. It was just that way for Aiku during the U20 game, as he happened to be the strongest and the captain. But those two factors aren't necessarily linked. Speaking on that fact, the last nominee for captain is actually the weakest of all of the characters that I've mentioned. And by all, I mean like 3. That player being Tabito Karasu. Now, Karasu being the worst isn't just my bias kicking in because I've actually grown to appreciate Karasu a little more. Ever since his awakening of Metavision, Karasu has grown from incredibly overrated status to just slightly overrated. And if Karasu were to become the captain, it wouldn't be that crazy to be honest. I mean, Karasu is a pivotal part of the defensive line during the U20 game. He has some great game IQ and analysis, and we see how well he works with other people during matches. This can be shown with his link-ups with Otoya and Chigiri during the U20 game, but also Charles and Shiro during the match against Bayern München. But realistically, I don't know if I would want Karasu as my captain. This simply comes down to the fact that I don't see Karasu playing in every single game during the U20 World Cup. Players like Reo or Raichi or even Kunigami are players that I can see subbing in Karasu's place when the time is needed. I'd honestly say that the captain should be played for the entire game or all of the games to even be considered for that role. And with players like Aiku, Rin, and Isagi, I feel like they would all be more likely to play every game as opposed to Karasu. So now that we've addressed all of the other potential candidates, why do I think Isagi is the best pick for next captain going into the U20 World Cup? Before I get into it, I want to remind you guys that if you are enjoying this video, to leave a like and subscribe down below to see more awesome Blue Lock content just like this. It costs you guys absolutely nothing, and it helps me out immensely. And if you want to help even more, if you were to become a member of the channel, you would not only earn some awesome benefits like personal video requests and shoutouts and videos, but you would also get your name mentioned in the Blue Lock New World movie as a contributor to the project, and this also applies to leaving super chats. So like, subscribe, and become a member to show your support for me and my content. Now in order to say that Isagi should be the next captain, we should start by looking at what Isagi provides that makes him captain material. So let's start by talking about his skills. Looking at Isagi, despite not having the most advanced individualized techniques and skills, he excels in team situations and team plays. And when it relates to soccer, or football if you want to be more technical about it, team play is by far more important than individualized talent. Isagi's spatial awareness is arguably the highest in the U20 category, second only to Mark Snuffy outside of that bracket. His ability to use his metavision to view rational spaces on the pitch allow him to accurately predict the actions and plays of the opposing team and allies alike in order to position himself accordingly for the most positive results. And with the use of his true flow state or omnivision, Isagi discards every external emotion for the purpose of becoming a goal-scoring machine, and can even predict the likes of Rin Itoshi, who was previously unpredictable with metavision. Having high spatial awareness is something I believe is essential for the captain going into the U20 World Cup. Sure, there will be teams that lead with a genius as a captain, making their strongest player their figurehead, but when it comes to Japan and the Blue Lock team that we know of, having a talented learner with high analytical ability control the field and the team's strategies seems like the best way to go about this. The next part to target is Isagi's impact with his teammates. Isagi's performances and actions on the pitch make him by far the most valuable player on the field. This is what made him MVP in numerous games during the NEL and the Japan Under-20 match. Despite Rin being the captain, Isagi was a leading figure in a lot of the plays, working around the midfield linking up with Nagi, Yukimiya, and Rin with the intention of allowing for them to score goals easier. His impact was so great that by the end of the game, hell even by Baro's goal, the field began to move around Isagi as its main piece, instead of Rin. But that was only during the U20 game, and if you want to talk about Isagi now, the evidence is even more apparent that he deserves the captain title. Looking at chapter 291 of the manga, we see the link-up play of Hiyori, Yukimiya, Kaiser, and Isagi as they rush down the field for the final counterattack for Bastard München. Yukimiya acknowledges that to stand beside Isagi and play with him, you cannot afford to stay the same. You need to evolve and grow. Hiyori states how Isagi's greatest strength as a player is drawing out and enhancing the egos of those who stand beside him, making them want to be better for the sake of their future. Even Kaiser, the man who despises Isagi with every fiber of his being, couldn't help enjoying himself when playing alongside Isagi. To quote Kaiser directly, "This is soccer with Yoichi. It's fascinating, and it's fun. It's fun as shit." Even those who directly hate Isagi acknowledge the joy that they feel when they play the sport, so long as they align themselves with him. But even if you disapprove of all of that evidence that I've just provided to you, you can take a look at the recent chapters of the Blue Lock manga to see the narrative importance that Isagi is holding. Ever since the new Egoist League has ended, Isagi has been at the forefront of everything related to Blue Lock. During chapter 301 at the parade, Isagi's name is the most popular amongst the jerseys in the crowd, and Isagi himself is at the center of the stage to admire the fever that was created by the country of Japan. In chapter 302, as Nagi is biking home from school, we see Isagi center stage at the billboard for Blue Lock Japan. Sure, Rin and Shiro were there too, and Isagi was in the middle because he was technically second place, but it would make more sense to put your star at the center of everything, right? In chapter 303, it is Isagi who is called up by Henri to speak to Japan, claiming how he will be the one to turn Japan into the place where soccer is the most intense. And in chapter 304, it is Isagi who is sent the packages to analyze game-changing moments, a task that is specifically stated to have been given to him by Ego. Now there are some people who claim that everyone was sent these recordings as well, and that simply just is not true. When you look at the final page of chapter 304, you can see Bachira, Chigiri, and Kunigami each with their respective letters. Bachira in particular is pulling his out of a mailbox. However, for Isagi, he was given a package, with not just his letter inside, but also plane tickets. Now, assuming that everyone received the plane tickets and the package as well, why was Bachira, for example, shown getting his separately? The consistency there just doesn't make sense. Now, there are a ton of theories that relate to the plane tickets, with many like myself believing that Isagi will end up going to Spain to watch Real or even train with them prior to the U20 World Cup. This aligns from the fact that Isagi was tasked with viewing and understanding game-changing moments. And to me, what better place would be there to view them than at Real, the strongest club in the world? It would also be a way to bring Sai back into the story, as he was strangely the only new Generation 11 that we know of who was not addressed at all during the interview of chapter 303. And since Isagi has played against Sai and seen what he can do, playing alongside the strongest U20 midfielder would allow for this newly evolved Isagi to truly understand what these game-changing moments actually are. Not only as a striker, but also as a captain. Because with the title of captain and the comprehension to notice game-changing moments, Isagi's metavision would drastically increase, as he isn't solely making predictive plays anymore, but he can also direct individuals to play in a certain way to where it's almost as if they also have metavision. An example of this is seen with Isagi and Kaiser's team-up in chapter 287. Isagi's omnivision allows for him to comprehend and predict the unpredictable plays of Destroyer Mode Green. But that is something that Kaiser himself cannot do. However, by having Kaiser follow Isagi's movements, it's almost as if he has the ability to control unpredictability in the same way that Isagi can. A situation like that is something that Isagi could use as the captain, so long as he understands these key moments of the game, which he can learn by studying the tapes, as well as potentially training with Sai at Real. But that's just simply my reasoning as to why Yoichi Isagi is the next best pick for captain out of anyone on the Blue Lock Japan team. Now, you are free to disagree, but I hope you acknowledge and understand the evidence I've presented in this video, which point to Isagi being the next U20 captain. But aside from that, I hope you guys did enjoy this video and will continue to enjoy it in the future. I also want to say thank you so much to all the members of my channel who help support me and my content. And if you wish to earn some awesome benefits like they do, and even get your name mentioned in the Blue Lock New World movie, become a member yourself and help support me and my content moving forward. And just a final reminder to join my Discord server if you're ever interested in getting any more involved with our amazing community. As for the question of the video though, who do you think will become Blue Lock Japan's next captain? Leave me your thoughts down below in the comment section. And like always, thank you all for watching, like and subscribe to see more awesome Blue Lock content just like this.